All right, all right. Welcome to another episode of The Real Deal. Let's get it. All right, welcome to another exciting episode of The Real Deal. I am your host, as always, Courtney Harden. Glad to be back with another Saturday episode. It is happy July 1st, happy 4th of July weekend. Hope everyone is going to be with family, friends, and have a good time here, being safe out there and enjoying some good family, friends time, good barbecue, good cookouts, good food. I hope everyone enjoys their 4th of July weekend. But yeah, we're another episode 122. Just waiting for my guest to come on. So I decided, look, let me just get on and the show goes on with the show. The show goes on. So glad to be back with another episode here. If you are tuning in on Roku TV, thank you. BS3 TV app on the Roku channel, Roku TV. Thank you for everyone that tunes in there. Also is tuning in on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, and the YouTube channel, BS3 Sports and BS3 Network YouTube page there. Thank you again for tuning in. You can find the show on all podcast platforms, whether it's Spotify, Apple, Google Play. Also, we are on Anchor and all the podcast networks and platforms. You can find all the shows there. And also, you can follow me at Get the Real Deal on Twitter and also on Facebook. And you can find me on all those social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as well. BS3TVLive.com is the website. BS3Network.com is the website as well. We got, like I said, we got shows for everybody, not just sports. Like I say it every week. Shout out to the BS3 Network, the entire family, entire network there. It keeps growing and growing, and we're hitting up events, sporting events, and doing a lot of different shows and TV, movie reviews, and social and commentary. All these things we're building a great network. I'm glad to be a part of the BS3 network. So check out previous episodes of The Real Deal as well. I had a chance to interview some WNBA All-Stars on Zoom, and it was a great time there. I got to interview Brianna Stewart, ask her a couple of questions, and also Ajay Wilson as well, for the WNBA All-Star. They had a media on Zoom for an All-Star, and it was great to be able to ask them a few questions about their process of how they're the team captains for the All-Star game coming up in a couple of weeks for the WNBA All-Star game in Vegas. And I got a chance to ask a couple questions on Zoom for their media thing, and it was great. It was great to be able to talk with them and get the process of how they're going to present at the All-Star game, how they're going to maybe pick their team. They didn't give their strategies out, but how they're able to pick their team, and the years they're having. I mean, the Liberty and the Aces are having a tremendous year, so that was great. That was a great time. So, but that's what the BS3 Network is about. We're having the opportunities to do different things and do different events and interview these athletes and go into these shows and go into the events. I mean, I'll be heading up to the Fantasy Football Expo in August. Excited for that. Excited to meet some of the the content creators and YouTubers and people with a lot of podcasters on the for that as well. Excited for that, and to be covering some of those things as well, and so very very excited on that route as so be on the lookout for that. So yeah, so great interviews, great times, great content, up and coming live shows, live events, live sporting events, and things like that. So before my guest comes on, I wanted to talk about, we had NBA free agency started yesterday, and man, it was like every other free agency period with sports, with especially NBA, NFL. Those first few hours is just signing after signing after signing, different players going to different teams and things like that. So we had Draymond Green re-signed with the Golden State Warriors, and I did a show on Wednesday on Instagram Live. So check out my Instagram, CJ_Hard_79. If you want to listen to the preview show there with the for the NBA free agency, did a free agency show with my man Ben Sutter, who was the creator and owner of BS3 Network. So check that out. But we did a full hour of just in NBA free agency where we went down each, all the trades and trade rumors and all those things. But Draymond Green, he re-signed with the Golden State Warriors. We had now news just broke before I started. Dame Lillard is requested a trade. Now, if you followed the story of the Dame and the Portland Trailblazers, he had a meeting with them earlier this week, and the GM had said that they're gonna try their best to build around Dame and try to get veterans, but he's seeing all these signings. One of the players was gonna be Draymond, but I think everybody knew Draymond was gonna re-sign with Golden State. It made sense for Draymond to re-sign with the Golden State Warriors. So I didn't see him going anywhere else. I just think he fits there. I don't know how much he would have thrived anywhere else. If he would have thrived in Portland, if he would have thrived in Detroit, that was another team that was linked to Draymond. But the Warriors, he's won 4 championships with the Warriors. He's an integral part of that system. He fits that system with the Splash Brothers. So I didn't see Draymond going anywhere else, but back with Golden State. So, but now Dame requests a trade. He wants to be in Miami. I know the Clippers are there and everything. So we'll see where Dame goes. I'm very interested to see where he goes, and a lot of teams could use a Dame Lillard on their roster. So he signed, or he's ready to see where he goes. What other signings were there? James Harden, he's on the trade block now after he after he opts in, but now he wants to leave Philly. So he's another guy that's going to be on the move as well, possibly. So you got Dane, or you got James Harden. Chris Middleton resigns with the Milwaukee Bucks. They're waiting on Brook Lopez, so they try to bring their core back together, and with Giannis and Drew Holiday. So we'll see. Where Chris Middleton signs a 3-year deal as well to resign back with the Milwaukee Bucks. There was quite a few signings. Kyle Kuzma resigns with the Wizards, so that was another player that resigned. He resigned with the Wizards. So a lot of different. Kyrie Irving goes back to Dallas. Kind of seen that coming. I just didn't see Kyrie going anywhere else unless it was like the Lakers. But Kyrie wanted a $200 million contract, and I don't think any teams wanted to pay him that. So he didn't have a lot of options. So going back to Dallas was probably his only option. So he signs I think it was $102 million for 3 years. So he signs a 3-year deal back with Dallas to play with Luka. So we'll see how that goes, because they missed the playoffs this past season. Bruce Brown, he leaves. he left Denver, the championship team in Denver. So he signs with the Indiana Pacers, got his money. So a lot of different free agency going on. So, but I have my guest here on the show, so let me bring him on as well. I have Roland Lazenby on the show, author of the new book, Magic Johnson, The Life of Irvin Magic Johnson. He's also done books on Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, any Hall of Fame, all-star caliber player this guy has done, and in teams as well. So thank you, Roland, for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for your patience, Courtney.
Yeah, absolutely.
Welcome to the clown car life of Roland Lazenby.
No problem. I knew you were gonna come on, so it was only right. We've done a couple of these shows before, so
right.
Thank you for coming onto the show. Really appreciate it.
I got detained, and I made an Indy 500 dash home, and I pull in, and some guys pulled in the driveway trying to sell us gutter work.
Oh no!
I can't even get in. It's just one of those perfect storms. It's a good comedy.
And like you said, you can't make stuff up like that. It just happens, right?
No.
But I appreciate your time, and thank you
man.
again. It's been a while since we've done a show. I think the last time we did a show together probably was before COVID. I know that.
Yes, it
was.
So
about 5 years ago. I think you had just released maybe the Kobe Bryant book, maybe at that time. So so how have you been throughout these, over this since 2020 and the pandemic and all these things? I'm sure you've been keeping busy with everything.
Well, I think probably the main thing is we lost Kobe.
Yeah. Yes.
There's been no shortage of misfortune for people.
Yeah.
In that time and other ways. I've spent 5 years working on a Magic Johnson book, and I spent I got into I've written a lot of different books, a lot of text for picture books. Mm-hmm. But later in my career, because I was with the Bulls throughout much of the Jordan era, all through The Last Dance, wrote books about it. And then before that, had been with the Lakers and the Celtics and the Pistons.
Mm-hmm.
And so then after that, of course, Tex Winter, my good friend, and Phil Jackson and all that crew moved to Los Angeles. And so I'd already spent a lot of time with Kobe and done a book on him that came out in 99 about called Mad Game, the NBA education of Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
And then I had introduced him to Tex and to the great George Mumford, the mindfulness expert, two of the most important people in Kobe's life, because he was sort of a lost soul as a teenager in the NBA in those days. And both of those guys ended up serving Kobe extremely well, as you know.
Yes.
And Kobe, of course, in turn served all of us extremely well as this ultimate pilgrim of the game who laid it all on the line every night. And so, I've had a lot of good fortune. So I don't spend my life in the halls of aggrievement. I don't know how it all happened. I can't tell you. It certainly wasn't because I was a scholar or anything. Because, man, me in school, that was trouble.
Right. So you said you've been with like I said, some of the greatest athletes, basketball players and athletes ever.
And coaches
too.
But players over coaches.
Yeah.
That's not just my philosophy. That's Jerry West's or anybody who is. I mean, coaches help. Don't get me wrong. But and sometimes they help tremendously. Sometimes they really get in the way and screw a lot of things up. But and you never know.
Yeah.
But we're supposedly in the age of great player power. And that's good because the owners had all the power for the longest time.
Right.
And basketball barely survived the owners, but it did with the help of the Globetrotters.
Yes.
They had to have the Globetrotters do double headers with the NBA teams in Madison Square Garden and other venues. Otherwise, they couldn't sell enough tickets for the league to survive.
Right.
And they did that by promising Saperstein, Abe Saperstein, the owner of the Globetrotters, that he would be admitted to the NBA. But they were duplicitous in that. They never did that.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, it's like so much history, and I know we talked about this over the years. From like you were part of, like I said, the seeing the Harlem Globetrotters and writing about them, just all those things. And you said from coaching from coaches, from Phil Jackson, Tex Winter, Pat Riley. So
one of my favorites I got to know in the early '90s was the great John McClendon. And they didn't want to let black men coach. And even when he got, and I mean, John McClendon's one of the greatest coaches of all time. I don't care what color you're talking about, pink polka dot, checkered blue, I don't know.
Yes.
but he was one of the greatest innovators. The waters he negotiated socially. He studied under Naismith at Kansas.
Yes.
Where they wouldn't let him play on the basketball team, wouldn't let him swim in a swimming pool in the 1930s. But Naismith was on the phys ed faculty at the University of Kansas when John McClendon was one of the first black people admitted. And he immediately realized what McClendon was, just a superior person.
Right.
And he got him a job coaching a local high school because Fall Gallen, the supposed dean of coaches, wouldn't let him try out for the basketball team. And so McClendon, with that alliance with Naismith recommended him to the University of, I think it was either Iowa or I think it was Iowa. It was one of those Midwestern Big Ten schools where he got his master's degree. And then he went to North Carolina Central in like 39. And he started the coaching program there. It was North Carolina College for, and I forget the exact name then, during segregation. But he got the ball rolling. And, it's been a long, hard road just for black men and women to be recognized first as coages and then as exceptional coaches.
Right.
And so and the only reason I have this on my mind, I was doing the Facebook thing earlier this morning. And up popped one of my pictures from years ago of Coach Mack, as he's so affectionately known by so many. And, Coach McClendon, what a great coach. So not every coach is like Coach McClendon. It is a player's game.
Right.
And I've had the good fun. Once I was able to, you have to apply for jobs in life. And it's not all about filling out the application.
Right.
It's like doing what you're doing, running your show.
Yep.
With the idea that someday you're going to ascend to an even bigger show.
Yes. Right. That's the process.
That allows your on-camera talents and and ability to interview and all those things, it's going to allow you to do it. And so I went through a similar process. And so, as life goes on, if you are fortunate, and then you get to do things like write biographies of great people.
Right.
And the hard part is great people don't really want biographies. They don't mind autobiographies.
But they don't want biographies, right?
No, and especially a point guard or a coach, they're control freaks.
Yes. They want to control everything.
Yeah, well, that's how they ascend to greatness a lot of times, is by their ability to control the environment.
Yeah, right. Well, let's transition into with the masterpiece. I got the Kobe, I got the Michael Jordan books, and now we have the Magic Johnson one. They just said all-time greats. What was the process like writing about this bigger than life all-star in Magic Johnson?
Well, I think the thing that has really been amazing, because I started working on my Jerry West biography about 2007. And I did a Phil Jackson biography that became an LA Times bestseller in 2000. And so I was learning, I don't think there's a good school for learning to write biographies. You just have to read some good ones and sort of figure it out. Sort of like broadcasting. You sort of build your base of knowledge based on what you consume. And I began there. And I really like to research the history. And I think that's particularly important when you're writing about race. But it's important writing about class and culture too. Right. When I did my old man was one of these two-handed set shooters, played back in the 30s when they had a center jump after every basket.
And
this was through 1938 now. And the basketball's been played since 1891. But all those years, decades, you'd make a basket, they'd blow a whistle, take everybody's butt to center court and do a center jump. Like a soccer match.
Yeah, right.
No fast break. I mean, forget transition game. There was none of that. And suddenly in 1938,
wow,
they did that. And then in 42, actually McClendon was the first guy to really allow a big man in the game. That aforementioned Fall Gallen, he called them glandular goons. We don't want tall boys in the game. They're awkward. They got two left feet. They can't chew gum and run. We don't want to let George Mike in there. But John McClendon was the first. He had a 7-footer named Slim. Norbert Slim Dowling. And McClendon had a great running team back at North Carolina Central. It was called North Carolina College for Negroes then. Now I remember it. But the whole thing was McClendon operated the full weaponry of the 94 feet.
Wow.
And he understood. And, he very quickly became prominent as a coach who could win. Of course, they had to take these 18, 20-hour bus rides. His team did. And, at big house games at Winston-Salem State, when I interviewed him back in the day, he said, you can't imagine those trips because you couldn't just pull over anywhere, and certainly you couldn't stop in a restaurant. So all the basketball games they played were played under you think these players today and in the NBA over the years, they, we always talked, it's a road trip. It's a 6-game road trip, The road trips of those early black basketball teams and the Barnstormers, like those Globetrotters. You talk about Kareem, excuse me, not Kareem, but Arthur Ashe did a 2-volume series on the black athlete called A Hard Road to Glory.
Yes.
It's not an overstatement. But anyway, John McClendon was getting all this recognition, and the folks at Duke thought, this was in the 40s, early 40s. Well, we'll invite Coach McClendon over and honor him to sit with our team during a game. And then they notified, and Coach Mack thought that was pretty cool. Maybe a breakthrough. And then they notified him, well, you got to put on a steward's jacket when you sit on the bench so the fans won't notice. He said, thank you, but I don't think I can make it. And his big thing, see, the one-sided propaganda, and that was his word, not mine. One-sided propaganda is they had spent decades upon decades convincing Black people that they had no talent. Think about that. Think about the immense store of talent.
Yes.
I'm not talking basketball. I'm talking whatever you want.
Whatever it is. Right.
The immense store of talent bottled up in that culture. And his biggest battle as the greatest coach of all time, he had to, and this is what he explained to me, he had to convince his own players that they were not inferior, that they were equal to the task. And so he had to travel with his team everywhere around the country. And he had to make sure that never once, you talk about a control freak and having to be one.
Right.
He had to make sure that he would never put himself or his players in a situation where they would be disrespected. Think about the degree of difficulty of that. Just doing the interviews with him was one of the most humbling things of my life.
Wow. It's amazing. Just that, like, the historic portion of that is tremendous, as you said, and to learn all those things, and I know that goes into your writing. You said researching and really getting to know just the surroundings of writing your books.
Context is everything. You're exactly correct. And what I was starting out to say, I tend to ramble a bit, so
no, you're fine. I'm loving it.
Don't hesitate to rope me in. But my original point is I got to start writing biographies. And since about 2000, I've been writing these longer books. And slowly the data mining that you're able to do in things like Ancestry. I don't know if you ever catch Finding Your Roots on public television with Dr. Henry Louis Gates.
I've seen it, yes.
It will blow your mind. I try not to miss it. I watch it like I used to watch, I don't know, ACC games on a Saturday.
Right, yeah.
But now the data mining, where you can get back to families and find and it's the great American treasury. All the price that was paid for us to have this world today, and a huge chunk of that price is the great Black tradition of this country. And you can look into the lives of any family. The stories, just the facts, the numbers from all the census records, all the death certificates, all the birth certificates, all the different public records, draft cards and military records, even the numbers. The Magic Johnson story I was able to trace to the 1830s.
Wow.
And when I got there, I was literally knocked off my feet. Because they don't really want to teach these things in the schools. And I mean, the little bit they now teach, we're trying to get that out of there. We don't want anybody to feel bad about their heritage.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the point. The point is, this is a heritage for all of us to celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the truth sets everybody free. The truth allows us to leave behind all this baggage. And it's there. And eventually, what's a line from Shakespeare? I don't think I ever made better than a C in Shakespeare. But the truth will out. And the truth of race in this country, I hate to jump on my soapbox here, but these are dire times. They got people banning books. And when you're banning books by writers like Toni Morrison, we're in serious trouble. Mm. And so my only point is, these are not facts. This is not a truth to run from.
Right.
This is a truth to run toward. Mm. And that's a foot race all Americans need to be running.
Yeah.
I will tell you that I got into looking at the numbers. Mm-hmm. And I realized that an acre of land in the 1830s was 25 cents, 50 cents, $1 an acre. And then I was just looking at the numbers. I wasn't planning on finding or running into this. But a black slave was worth $800, $900, $1,000 or more. Mm. Think about that. Yeah. The land itself was worthless. Mm. Now, I know this is a basketball podcast. I'm going to shut up about this stuff. But all you have to do is the math. And the heart of the value of so much of America. I mean, and that's important. I think everybody, that's like knowing who landed at D-Day. Mm-hmm. That's as hallowed as any other of our truths about democracy.
Yeah.
And once we get to the point where we can treat it as hallowed material, we're getting somewhere.
Right. Right.
But let's talk basketball. I'm sorry.
You're right.
This grows out of basketball. I think it's cynical just to talk shooting percentages and rebounds and analytics. Mm-hmm. I think you have to look. Magic Johnson wanted all of his life to be a businessman.
Yeah.
There was nobody who told Magic Johnson how to play. He taught his coaches basketball. And he did this from a young age. Mm-hmm. Much like Bill Russell taught his coaches basketball. And that's just organic. It's the organic truth. Now, those coaches, I spent a lot of time with them as high school coaches. They said, oh, yeah, we helped him some. But make no mistake, these guys owned up to it. Yeah. And they talked about it. And that is really my goal. Whether I was trying to find the organic Kobe, everybody thought he was copying Michael Jordan on. There's a reason for all that. Yeah. And so when I wrote about Kobe, my goal was there was so much about Kobe that was misinterpreted and misunderstood, all based on everything about him coming out of high school and winding up at the Lakers. And he could have defended himself. He knew the truth. He never bothered to worry with what people were saying about him. Mm. He just was focused on the game.
On the game, yeah.
He didn't even defend himself once. I know I've been there countless nights with him listening to the questions when he was 19, 18 years old. They were after that dude. He was he was considered quite the prima donna. He was showboat. That's why I call the book Showboat.
Showboat, yeah. Great book too. If anybody wants to know, like Kobe Bryant, the way that you presented him, as you said, he was misunderstood. He was, but as you said, he didn't really express. I mean, he expressed his on the court,
Right.
but it was more of Kobe said, "I'm just going to show you on the court who I really am." But he was, as I say, a prima donna. He was cocky and arrogant, but at that level, I tell my wife, we talk about this all the time. Certain athletes, they have to have some type of level of that arrogance, and some just have it more than others.
I was so lucky in my life that I had the password to Kobe's hotel room for the phone, and I could call him up. It was Buona Sera. It's Italian for good night, I'm pretty sure. And I didn't know Italian from Chinese or any other. Like I said, I was never the sharpest tool in the shed. But I would call and talk to him all the time. And I mean, this was during his misery days. This was his showboat days. And he had literally a 400-pound gorilla on his back. And Shaq was under a lot of pressure himself.
Right.
And there is not a better guy in some ways. But it was not good between Shaq and Kobe. And Shaq was not real cool about it. Kobe was primed to be bullied, except he wasn't going to have it.
He wasn't going to let it happen, right? Yeah.
And Tex, I had to introduce Kobe to Tex. I was rebounding free throws for Kobe one day in the Forum after practice. It was empty except for Jerry West and this real pretty TV reporter. And Kobe was practicing missing free throws. Like at the end of a game where you're down and like you're down 3 and you got to make one and then miss and then get the rebound. I mean, he's working on that. He's working situationally.
Yeah.
And he tells me, hey, I've always dreamed that Tex Winter would be my coach. And see, I've been working with the Bulls all those years.
Yeah.
Tex Winter was really my main educator, on so many things, whether it's the mystery of Michael's personality or the triangle offense or any of these things. And I was coaching youth basketball, so I would run the triangle so that I could know it. And I would call Tex all the time with questions, and he loved it. He loved anybody that wanted to be a triangle.
Wanted to be in the triangle, yes.
And I had a couple of really good post players on a youth team, and we would just cave people's heads in, just kill them. Because, the triangle is about, you got different angles to feed the post. And it's all about, it's why the triangle is also called the triple post offense.
Yes.
And it was all about controlling tempo and just pounding somebody in the pavement. And I had an AAU team that could do it. And it was funny. And I would call Tex, and I got close with him. And so then I went out to L.A. And once Michael, I got to know Kobe, and I was there in Charlotte the night he scored his first NBA field goal. I still got the press notes from that night. And I got to know Kobe to the point where by spring of 99, I was rebounding free throws for him. And I'd already been talking to him. And I had his password to the hotel. He would tell me, I just want to be the man. I want to be the man. And I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I know I'm going to get there. I just want to be the man. That was he would just say that over and over again.
Yeah.
And it was sort of like he could express his frustration, because I'm some old dumb redneck covered pro basketball. And, it's just, I guess it's kind of easy to talk to me. I don't know. But the point was that when he told me he thought he'd always dreamed, I never even discussed Tex Winter with him. I said, I'll get Tex to call you. Well, of course, Tex was working for the Bulls still then.
Yeah.
And Tex said, yeah, I'll call him. But both teams were, the bells and whistles went off. Like, what? You don't have an assistant coach from one team phone in a young
Another
star.
team, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Big no. Tex didn't care. He was just there to tell Kobe that. Now, Tex was the one who had to take on Kobe about not being a ball stopper and all that when he got to the Lakers.
Yeah.
But he said, your instincts are really good. What you're just looking for an organized offense so that you can attack. And of course, Kobe had been studying tape at Jordan forever.
Yeah.
And Kobe, Jordan, the triangle would put Jordan behind the defense on the weak side, on the wing. And it was a really hard place to double team. And it would mean that, and the triangle is all about filling the corner on the strong side with somebody like a John Paxson, corner three guy.
Corner three.
And this is before the NBA lost its mind over 3-point. But
Yeah.
when you put John Paxson out there at that corner three, you got to go defend him.
Yeah.
And so what that did, it was the unbalanced floor that allowed Jordan to attack from the weak side. And with the quick ball movement of the triangle, they couldn't get to the double team on Jordan.
Right.
And Kobe knew all this. He wanted that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And Phil Jackson wouldn't let him have it.
Mm.
Coaches, according to Phil, have a job, and that's establishing a hierarchy.
Yeah.
You have to know who the top dog is. You have to know, and it's just like anything else, you got to know who the number 2 dog is, and on down the line. And you do not violate that unless you go to protocol.
Yeah.
And Kobe wanted to be the alpha. Shaq was, got 2 alphas there, and they're different. And I don't think there's any coach in America that wouldn't have been given the ball to Shaq.
Right, especially at that time too. Yes,
and with Kobe's great hunger, I mean, maybe the hungriest guy to ever come to the NBA. So young that, college players sort of learn to bank their hunger.
Mm-hmm.
If and that's what Anthony Ticci told me when I was writing the Jordan book. That was really important. He said, Michael Jordan has never gotten the credit for having the character to play for Dean Smith for 3 years. Michael had that fabulous dunk against Maryland, and Dean Smith wouldn't even allow it to be shown on his coach's show. The NBA scouts for years hated Carolina because the system was so tight. You could not see the skill level of certain players. And it was so structured. And there was a reason people made a joke about Dean Smith holding Michael under 20. But all of that ended up working in Jordan's favor later. Yeah. Once he got to the triangle and he learned how. I mean, he could feast in any offense.
Yeah.
But he really could dominate the triangle. And it got to the point that Phil Jackson, Red Auerbach would blow the cigar smoke in everybody's face.
Yeah.
He was the most hated man in the old NBA because he had everybody else was sitting around chewing their fingernails. He went out and got Bill Russell. And Bill Russell was, they had a lot of really competitive, all-time competitive players.
Yeah.
And Phil Jackson ended up coaching Michael, and he would bust people up every little way he could. And Tex Winter would say, you just do not know how much Phil is disliked. Or Phil would say Tex would say disliked. Phil was hated because he could rub it in every way, just like Red Auerbach. And so, anyway, he wouldn't allow Kobe out on that weak side much, almost never. And that became this tremendous tension. The triangle in the early Lakers was also a triangle of Shaq and Kobe and Phil.
Phil, yeah. Yes. I love it.
And of course, in the midst of all this discourse is still the fact of the great John McClendon and all the things he did. You know, all those players that played for him. I can remember Norbert Dowling. I can't remember all the names of all. I'm an older guy. And I have to go back and read it. I've listed them in various books I've done. But I often think when I'm writing this history and I try to go back generations on these families,
yeah,
you're really looking at all these wonderful people. I mean, people haven't changed. They didn't. We didn't suddenly get to the late 20th century and the 21st century, and suddenly black people became smart. That's bullshit. They've been smart their whole existence, just like anybody else.
You're right. Yeah.
And so what I go looking for and what I'm trying to do is to write and honor them, because they had to use all their intelligence and power. They didn't have much power. They had strength beyond measure. But they had to use all of that just to survive.
Right.
Of course, there have been peasants all over the world.
Yeah.
And all humans. And this is the other reason that really, we go from slavery into sharecropping, which is, it's the same game all over the world for centuries upon centuries upon centuries. You got the nobility, the wealthy dude with the castle, and you got everybody else is a peasant. You know, subsistence farming.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, it's a human story we all share. It's not something to run from.
Yeah.
It's something to celebrate. And, I think if they would take the time to tell the story right and tell it in the schools, we could have those moments.
Those conversations. Yeah.
Beyond conversations, I mean, Juneteenth could be something for all of us.
Yes. Yeah.
February is not Black History Month. It's not just some.
Right.
It's Universal Black History Month, or something that states that this is core to all of us. This is critical to all of us.
Everybody. Yes.
Because I go back to those numbers I encountered in the 1830s. That's how we all survived in the first place.
Yeah.
It's Black strength is American strength. Black power is American power. And if you just understand it like that, what the hell is there to argue about?
Exactly. Well, Roland, I'm not going to keep you too much longer. We can have this conversation for ever and ever and ever. But I appreciate your time. I wanted to thank you again for the history and just your time, and all the things you've done and learned, and everything you put it in your books and your writing. So everyone that doesn't follow you need to follow follow you and what you do and everything. So I appreciate it. I'll let everyone know where they can actually follow your work. First and foremost, when the Magic Johnson book comes out, the dates and where they can find it.
Courtney, I can't thank you enough for that. I'm not really supposed to talk about the Magic book, but that core lesson Those numbers from the 1830s, the
Mhm.
revelations of the facts of history. I don't want to hold off. That's my story to tell as I
Yes.
go forward. I know everybody wants to hear basketball stories, and I got tons of those. But the number one thing is the real truth of the real history.
Yes.
Thank you for everything and for your
Absolutely.
patience.
Thank you. Yeah, no problem. You're very welcome on that. And again, like I said, I know the book comes out October, right? It's October.
It is October. Thank
October.
goodness, because I still got we it's like launching not a battleship, but a pretty good sized canoe.
Canoe. Yes, yes. And they can follow you on all social media platforms, whether it's LinkedIn,
Twitter at
Twitter.
Lazenby.
Yeah.
I had some great students when I taught at Virginia Tech. They got me on Twitter early enough where I could use my own last
You know
name.
me on much, yes.
Thank
So
you,
yeah,
Courtney.
Twitter. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I've already shared this, so everyone that's watching live, you had a couple of comments too before I let you go. It says, "Keep up the great
Okay.
work." Nathan
Thank you.
Ramasandra, yes, he's from the NR Hour. He has his own podcast.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you,
said,
Nathan.
He said, "Mama mentality." Yes, we know about Mama mentality.
Nathan, I'm sorry it is Nathan. Yeah, and thank you for that. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Somebody asked me once about Kobe. I said, well, if we all had what Kobe had, we'd be building condos on the moon.
Yes, exactly. So he's a big Kobe fan. So I know him for that. So he said, keep up the great work. So again, I thank you again. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the weekend, holiday weekend. And yes, and we have to do this again when the book actually comes out. We'll have some more stories.
You know me, I'm happy to do it. I love visiting.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. And like I said, enjoy the weekend. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care, Nate.
You too.
See you,
Thank
Courtney.
you. All right, have a good one.
Bye.
All right, that was Roland Lazenby. The stories he has. Check out all his things. He does so much, and he's done. Like I said, he's done books. Like if you the history of the basketball, history of the NBA and basketball, he's one of the best. Yeah, if you want to know more history on basketball, as you said, he's been around so many of the greats: Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Kareem, Phil Jackson, Kobe Bryant, Shaq. He's done books on the Showtime Lakers and Jerry West. He's one of the best at it. So that's a wrap for the show. I want to thank Roland Lazenby for his time, and pick up the book, The Life of Magic Johnson. Comes out in October. Pick it up at your local Barnes and Noble. Order on Amazon, wherever you can get your books at too. So, and I want to thank everyone else always for tuning in, for all the great support, likes, follows, sharing, everything. Really, I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I can't thank you guys enough on all, from social media to everyone that's listening to on Spotify and Google and everywhere else. I really appreciate it. So, but that's a wrap for the show. Again, thank you for everyone that tuned in. Until next time, enjoy the holiday. Enjoy this holiday weekend. I hope everyone stays safe and have a great time with family and friends, and enjoy the time off. If you have the time off, enjoy that as well. Until next time, enjoy it. And I will see you guys on the next one. And as always, peace out and God bless.